Good afternoon, KWSB. How's everyone doing? We're a little lean today. What's going on? Agents don't want to work today. What's going on here? Okay. I know a lot of us are on holiday mode, so it's perfectly fine. But thank you for being part of this amazing office and sticking it out through the end of the year. This is where crunch time is definitely priority, right? Anything and everything that you do now will resonate the first quarter of 2025. So let's not stop. So thank you very much. Let's go ahead and start with our team meeting. I can't believe it's already the 19th. Next week is already Christmas. Wow. And then the following week, we're already in 2025. Wow, what a journey it's been this 2024. So you know how we like to start our team meeting is with our mission, our belief, and our vision. To provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our belief, when the values of your own company align with your own beliefs, you know you've found your professional home. And our vision to achieve amazing professionals and personal development so that KW South Bay remains the agency of choice. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause, please. All right, some of you might have seen this video. Some of you may not have seen this video, but I wanted to bring it back because it's just a cute little video on how to sell Girl Scout cookies. Have you seen that video? All right, so I'm happy to play it. So Nat, if you could play that video, please. What did you think of the video? Know your customers, right?
We're just talking about that in role play class, Simon. Like, she was like, "What do you like?" Great news. That's exactly what I have. You know, that's what we're talking. Like, I have great news. This just came on the market. I have great news. This house just sold up the street. Yeah. You know, provide value every time. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's just a reminder. I remember seeing this video many years ago, and it just still resonates on the importance of understanding urgency, your clients, inventory, right? And ultimately, you'll see the results from it, right? More clients your way. So, yeah, so I thought that was a good little video to finish the year strong. All right, let's thank our food sponsor, Andre, with the Termite Guy. Is Andre here?
Great. Well, happy holidays. We're at the end of the year. We made it.
Yeah.
I'm Andre, the Termite Guy. I pretty much know majority of you guys to do termite inspections. Typically, I don't charge you guys for inspections. In the case of the condo, if you need a clearance, it's $125. Something about our company, we've been since 1996. We do our own wood repair work. So we'll go in, and once we replace the wood, we do prime and paint. So a lot of termite companies leaves bare wood behind. We're kind of the opposite. Monday through Friday, you guys give us a call. You generate 24-hour inspection reports. So if you guys need something, we'll just get something to you within 24 hours. So it helps you guys out. Probably the only company out there that gives you a 5-year warranty on our fumigation. So once we tempt the house, if you're on the buyer's end, you kind of want to push it to tempt the house so the buyer can be fully comfortable living there, knowing that they have a warranty for 5 years. Any termite questions you guys have? You guys always come with something new.
Yeah. Any questions, concerns, or any opportunity to pick his brain regarding the actual report? Anything that maybe you've been pressed to pick, you know, his brain on termites? Any of that stuff? Yeah.
You remind us the difference between Section 1 and Section 2 clearance.
Oh,
that's a common one.
That's common. So Section 1 is active infestation, meaning that if you go there, you see damage and all that. Usually falls into Section 1. Section 2 is usually find out in the home inspection report. It's going towards a Section 1. So let's say water leak under the house, we know subterranean termites coming up. It usually goes on the Section 2. Loose stucco, all that other weird stuff that you see in the home inspection reports usually fall out of Section 2. Water damage is a Section 2 item as well. But there's something I want to teach you guys. Shower pans. I don't know if you ever had a shower pan leak. So say if there's a shower pan leak and I go into the house and there's damage under there from the shower pan, it's a section 1. But if there's just water leaking and there's no damage, it falls into a section 2. That's kind of the gray area. All right, on in. So, well, I'll leave my business card right in this corner. If you guys want to grab it, save my number. Feel free to text me anytime. I'm usually text back within 10 or 15 minutes, and I can help you guys out with anything.
We're gonna test that. Test him and see if he does it again.
I sleep at 8 o'clock, 8:30. So if it's anything past that, I'll probably reach out to you like at 7 in the morning the next day.
Awesome. All right, let's give Andre a round of applause. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you.
Holiday shirt.
Yeah. Have another special guest, Fernando, if you can come up here. Now it's gonna be giving us a quick little lender update as well. Let's give Fernando a round of applause.
I'm just gonna throw candy at you like crazy. All right, real quick, so we'll make it fun and quick. The Fed met yesterday and today. Did they cut rates? Who said no?
Well,
Wrong. Who said yes? Okay, one guy there, throw it at him.
I didn't say it.
All right, we'll throw it at somebody. Okay, they did cut. Now, the question is, how much did they cut? No, right here, 40%.
Oh, awesome.
Now, what does that mean to the market right now? I mean, mortgage rate, mortgage interest rate, not credit card, not HELOC, not car loan. What does it mean to us? Huh? Wrong. Next. You know what it means? Absolutely nothing. You know why? Because what do you think? What was the expected average interest rate by the second half of next year going to be?
5.5.
Wrong. Are you kidding me? I wish. It's gonna be crazy. Huh? Give it to her, close enough. About 6.25. Okay, so bottom line is based on their position, they're signaling now. Maybe only 2 cuts next year, at best. And those cuts probably won't come until the second half of the year. So basically, they're gonna remain flat between now and let's say middle of summer, okay? So those projections about getting rates into the 5s, somebody over there said 5, which would be great. It's probably not, it's just getting pushed out further if it happens. So just be aware of that. That's kind of what happened today. I still think, as you guys know, the last meeting we were here, I mean, prices are still going up between 5 and 7% depending on the county. So that will continue. I don't see that. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the NBA have all announced that sales should be up anywhere between 12 to 14% higher next year than this year. So that's a very positive thing. So don't let the rates and the situation with the Fed holding back and not making cuts hold you back. I would say just stay the course because there is going to be more transactions next year based on everybody's analytics. So that means more transactions for everybody in here. So the question is, you have to be in a position to take advantage of that. So,
And how do you take advantage of that?
oh, yeah, throw it chocolate. Somebody gives a good answer. How do you take advantage of that? Anyone? Nobody knows how to take advantage of that? What?
Contacts.
More contacts. How do you do
All right,
that?
there.
Whoa!
I think the Rangers are looking for something like Next, what else do you need to do?
What else do you guys think you should be doing? What else?
Sitting around, doing nothing.
Or on your phone ringing, so you get an email?
Exactly.
Oh, right, you gotta be proactive, right?
Proactive, guys. Proactive, stay in front of your contacts. You guys know the drill. It's really not that difficult when it comes to that. I do highly recommend videos. I have a marketing, I should say, not a team, but a liaison, if you want to call it that. We've changed it up and I started doing videos maybe a year and a half ago consistently. And I will tell you, because we see everything. I see like how long people look at them, if they click on them, same thing with our emails and stuff and what's going on. By far, 10,000% over. The videos that I'm doing are, getting looked at massively more than any email that I send on a product, any email that I send on the markets, anything like that. So I would get comfortable in front of the camera, just practice, give something of value. Because I will say I do them at least once a month, sometimes twice, and I get business every time. There's 10, 15 questions coming at me from customers or realtors saying, hey, Fernando, this thing you talked about, call me, I want to know more. Can I do this or can I do that or whatever? Next question.
I have a question. So based on what you just said about the interest rate not really getting cut so much, do you still project it to be at the sixes, like stay like? above-
I think we'll
above the
stay, well, right now it's gonna elevate because of the news and the shock, if you want to call it, it's not a shock, it's just kind of what was expected based on data that's been coming out. The problem is this, the economy is too strong. That's the problem. So, I mean, in simplistic fashion, that's the issue. So, until they start seeing a retraction of that, they cannot get aggressive with rate cuts. They cannot. So, but wait a minute, let's look at the positive side of that. If the economy is too good, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Does that mean that people are working and people should
Yeah.
feel confident about buying homes or selling houses or buying investment properties?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. Exactly. So I don't look at it just because it's, oh man, the Fed's rates are gonna stay elevated, the Fed's not gonna make any cuts for a while. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's the reason why they can't do it is because the economy is doing too good. That's why, in simplistic terms.
So if the economy is doing so great, and it's been doing great this year too, right? I mean, it's
Well, the
not,
data that they talk about and they get is up to right now. They,
so based on this year.
Yeah.
So if it continues the same, then what is gonna change in people's mindset to get into a house next year that as opposed to this year?
that's your job. You're good.
Basically, this is where your skill set comes into play, right? This is why role playing, learning contracts, knowing negotiations and how to maneuver those conversations to lead the motivation for the buyer to go out there and start buying for property. You'll never go wrong with real estate. But if you don't articulate that conversation with the buyer, they're gonna pull either the trigger or they're gonna stand back and say, well, maybe we'll wait another couple months or maybe
Yeah, they
next year.
keep giving you excuses.
Yeah, and you don't want to, because look at the trend, right? If you follow the trend, you'll see that property value, especially out here in the South Bay, consistently goes up. And it's all about holding, right? Well, if you don't see an immediate appreciation, but holding real estate in the long run will be a benefit to your clients. And the beauty is you can do more than renting, right? You can add square footage, you can remodel the kitchen, you can do swimming pool. There's so many opportunities when you're a homeowner compared to a renter, right? That's the value proposition that you need to sell your clients on.
Okay,
Make sense?
yeah.
You have some programs for the first buyers? What's the kind they?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. I mean, obviously, you guys know the state funded program, CalHAP is the biggest one that we have, because the good beauty of that program is it's for the entire state. So it's not like, okay, you can only buy in the city, or you can only buy in this census tract. So that is the most popular one, I would say, for you, for your clients out there. There are some city programs starting to come out in certain areas. I know Long Beach's got one. But that's specific to that area. So if your client wants to go to Gardena, for example, then that's a problem. So there are things out there. There's even like FHA, through some investors that they have on the backside have, the down payment can be covered. And you don't have to be a first-time buyer. There's no income limits, things like that. So there is help out there. Just keep in mind, depending on the program, sometimes the rates are elevated higher because of it, sometimes not. Just depends.
Where can I get that information that you already?
Just want to call me, I can get your card to find. Or just text me or something. Anything else? Throw some candy out?
You still got a lot of candy.
Throw it. What else? Throw it. Yeah, just throw it blindly. Just want to catch it right there. She'll just catch it. Guys, don't you guys have any questions? Oh, by the way, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you all. But I'm sure we won't be seeing, having another meeting. So wishing you much good health and prosperity next year. I do believe, I thought this year was a little bit rough. I thought it was going to be, and it actually ended up being a lot better than I thought. So I'm optimistic that if sales are up 10, 12, 14% next year, that it will be that much better for all of us. So, I mean, you guys realize that for all of you guys that made it and stuck it out, a lot of you guys probably weren't even born the last time sales were this low. Okay.
Well, yeah, what's that?
Sales have not been this low in 30 to 35 years, which was a recession in the early 90s as we're coming out of it. Was the last time that sales were this low. That's actually when I got into this business, was 1994. Okay, so it was literally like, I would walk into like a real estate company and you would see tumbleweeds and just like, it was like empty. Like, what happened? I didn't know any better. What do I know? Brand new, right? So, and then from there on, the industry, sort of picked itself up and then I went through the worst housing crash in history, right? 2007, 8, 9, 10, right? And I will tell you, yes, it was a bad crash. 2010 up until that point was my best year ever. And I was right in the middle of price is central. Okay, so it goes to show you that just because things are bad or things don't look good or sales are down or rates are high, business is out there, it happens. Don't forget. That's it.
Let's stay in the game and do your job. And I promise you, you'll get in production. Okay, Nat, let's, next slide. So again, I want to thank all of you that came. Didn't we have an amazing time last night at the Christmas event? Oh, that's so cool. So shout out to the owners, shout out to the leadership, shout out to the staff. But more and more so, shout out to all of you that participate. So we wanted to give you a glimpse of last week's Christmas party. So amazing turnout. You know, awesome agents. And the cool thing, this was the first time that we combined three offices. So we had over 320 people that came to it. It was fun, it was stressful, but overall, the experience, we had so many agents on the dance floor dancing away and having a good old time. So yeah, shout outs to our first KW Christmas party with three offices. So just a glimpse of the event. Yes.
Who's that guy that won 5 prizes? Who is that man?
What was his
Well, 100
name?
ticket.
Yeah, he kept winning.
He played it smart.
Yeah.
The thing is that he was shaking the boxes and then he felt which ones had a lot of tickets and which ones didn't have a lot of tickets. So,
He also
That-
spent $300.
but he also spent a lot of money into it too. So this is the reason.
Wow.
So now we're gonna change it up next time. We're gonna be limited to only 2 winnings.
Yeah.
And that's it.
How many tickets you got?
Yeah, unfortunately, so. But it was a good event. The raffle was awesome. The food was pretty
It was
good too,
good.
You know, the chicken was
Yeah.
great, as well. So again, shout out to all of you that were part of this amazing, Christmas party. So, and I thought it was just a great venue. It was more than enough space.
Yes.
And it was, you know, centralized to
Yeah.
the South Bay and to the Long Beach office as well.
I like the photographer too, that Ian, the guy with the picture booth.
Yeah. Awesome. And also big shout out to Chris Barros, who took all these amazing office. He's part of Allegheny team. So he was the one that took all these photos for us as well. So beautiful. Any other photos on that? I think that's it. All right. Let's go. I wanted to just give you a motivational word of the day. Who wants to volunteer by reading this? Who wants to volunteer? Any volunteers? Thank you. Can you read it out loud for
I
us?
sure can. Motivational word of the day. Every property tells a story, and you are the storyteller who brings it to life. Each conversation, showing, or deal is an opportunity to create a positive impact. Keep believing in your ability to connect dreams with reality.
Okay. What does that resonate with you? What does that mean to you? Anyone? Every property tells a story, and you are the storyteller who brings to life. Each conversation, showing, or deal is an opportunity to create a positive impact. Keep believing in your ability to connect dreams with reality. What does that mean? What does that say to you? Eric?
What resonated with me is like the storyteller, because you can have the same property and it's shown by one agent and they describe and tell the story of that property one way, and then that might make the sale, and then you might have another agent show the same property, just tell the story in a whole different way, without practice, without specific information. That might not make the sale because it didn't tell the story the way she told. Right? What resonated with me with that.
Yeah. Who else? Yes, Brandon.
Emotion sells, logic doesn't sell.
I love
We're
that.
in a business where everybody you meet is already looking at a number. Just remember, when you're talking numbers, you're not selling anything. That's what that says.
That's right. That's right. Gary?
Well, the way it's so interesting, everybody with. My thing to that is that every farm is a different experience.
Every what?
Every farm
every file.
Every escrow you go in.
Yeah.
it's- Every property you dealing with is a different experience.
That's right.
And you are in the center of making that experience good or great, right? You can have some bumpy road in some files, but you create a story, it was interesting, I was just a couple of days ago, I was calling an old client, and she reminded me of everything we did in that transaction about 4 years ago. And I don't remember all of that, and whoa, I mean, the picture she had of her experience was so unique. I didn't even think I was that good. Right? But so it's basically, and it was a hard file. I remember it was a hard file. The tenant will move out of the house. It took almost a month to move into the place. And she was telling me about all the stuff I was sharing with her there to keep her steady. So yeah, every opportunity you deal with a property is always going to be different.
Yeah.
And you'll get to navigate it. And that's the beautiful thing of what we do.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Jerry. Yeah, absolutely. We go 100 miles because we already know the process, right? We know the beginning, the middle, and the end. But for a consumer that doesn't know or hasn't been involved in a while, or this is their first time buying or their first time in many, many years selling, you know, they're going to see it a whole lot different, right? But it goes back to, you know, how you tell the story, right? And there's amazing agents that know how to maneuver that conversation, right? To really show the value, but ultimately get the buyer to pull the trigger, to get the seller to pull the trigger, right? That's you. So tell the story. And I promise you, telling the story will give you more opportunities. So I just thought this was a cool motivational word or statement that really resonates with us as real estate profession. Would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Yeah. So use this as part of your arsenal, right? It's like, okay, I've got to set the tone, set the parameter in place. I can really tell a story on why they should buy this property, right? You can utilize the lender, right? You can utilize the trends, right? Here's what the area is showing. Here's the grading system for the school district here, right? If it's very important for the family to have a good school district, here's the reason you sell the story on it. Make sense? Cool, awesome. All right. Next slide, please. All right, listing pitches and buyers needs and wants coming soon. Anyone? Come on. Just because it's December doesn't mean you stop. Any opportunities, any listings coming up? Gary.
We just put up a townhouse, that flower, 3 bedroom, 2.5.
Okay.
Price way below the market. Turnkey is $599. You know, so we have that. And we have two, if you have a buyer that's looking for a big house, housing, I got two huge homes. 5 bedroom, 3 bath. And the other one's a 4 bedroom, but it's also kind of like a extra room, 5 bedroom. One is 2,600 square foot, the other one's 2,200. You know, so we got a buyer for something like that.
Very cool. Awesome. Anyone else? Going once? Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Next slide, please. All right, the next slide. Oh, it's broker updates. Okay, my apologies. I thought we were gonna, there was another slide here, but it's be conflicting with my slide, so no problem. I wanted to talk to you on a couple of things. One is the Assembly Bill AB 2992. Does everyone know what AB 2992 is? No one else? You should have got an email from the Department of Real Estate because that bill is in effect come January 1st.
Buyer's agreement.
Buyer broker agreement, yes. Okay, this is something that you need to know, all right? So I'm gonna go back in time a little bit. I'm gonna give you the pre-settlement practice, the post-settlement practice, and what we're facing in the near future, which is in 2 weeks, okay? So the pre-settlement practice was, remember, a listing agent would go into, right, a residential home, speak with the seller, sit down, and then sell the value, right? But ultimately, the conversation would be about the commission, okay? And the commission was just this. Mr. Seller, I charge 5%. And part of that 5%, I will also contribute and give concessions to the buyer's agent that brings us a ready, willing, and able buyer. Right? And then the seller would sign off on the listing agreement. We had a 5% listing agreement, right? We would go half and half, right? 2.5% to the listing side, 2.5% to the buyer side. And then we immediately take it on the MLS, right? Put it on the MLS, and we would put compensation or cooperating compensation to be 2.5%. And then when the buyer agent is researching a home, right, they would scroll all the way to the bottom, right, and identify what their commission was, right? You guys remember, those were the good old times, right? The good old times, right? Well, in the summer of this year, the NAR settlement came into play, right? We were already talking about it in April, May, and June, and we were setting the tone that, come July, and then they pushed it from July to August, right? That they were going to change everything, right? That they were going to eliminate. And we were like, oh gosh, buyer agents are going to be out of the picture because commissions, right? Commissions. Now we're going into the post-settlement outcome, right? Where now we're talking about, we can't even go show a home without a buyer broker agreement, right? And now the buyer is responsible to pay us compensation. We can't even say commissions anymore. It's not even on the MLS anymore, right? Terrible, right? What happened to the good old times, right? Shit. Pardon my language, right? Trust me, leadership was getting bombarded. It was chaotic and crazy. And there was times I just wanted to just take myself. It's like, oh my gosh, because there was a lot. And we were going through this, we were all in it together, folks, and I get it. It was the uncertainty. And then we had opinions from everyone. We were looking at social media, emails, left and right, and I was thrown so much, right? And we were just trying to play the game, right? Trying to figure some loopholes in how we can navigate this, right? Because agents were concerned. Hey, there's no guarantee now that we're going to be able to get a commission, right? If the seller's not going to pay, and if it's not on the MLS, how is buyers, agents supposed to get paid? Well, that hasn't ever changed, folks. We just had to implement that now, right? And that implementation means now you have to put this in a buyer agreement. And now the buyer would agree in terms. So you're now negotiating terms with the buyer, right? That was what we have currently. Well, with the new changes happening January 1st, 2025, okay, that's going to change. Now, it's for the good, right? Now, the buyer broker agreements is when it's practical, okay? Or when you're ready to submit an offer, then you can have a buyer agreement in place. Now, I want to emphasize that. I also want to stress, okay? Don't change the way you do business, right? Still keep that same mindset that anytime you're going to sit and consult with a buyer, that you have that conversation and have something in writing. Okay, but now moving forward, part of that process of AB 2992 says you still need to have a buyer broker agreement. There has to be compensation. There has to be service in regards to that agreement. There has to be a timeline, meaning how much time are you going to be working with that buyer, right? For the BRBC, it's 3 months. If it's a corporation or an entity, then it can go as long as you want, right? But that's going to be part of the new changes. Also, if there's going to be any out-of-pocket expenses, remember, all commissions are negotiable and they've always been negotiable. What you feel you're worth. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so for clarifying purposes, buyers need to be responsible and agents need to be responsible when it comes to those terms, right? Because the buyer is technically responsible to pay you a commission. Now, with that being said, we're going to transition in hopes that the seller pays us a commission, right? Or compensation or concessions, right? And then we would prepare the purchase agreement. And then under G2, we would check it. And then a form would populate, which is the SBPP form, right? That's the form that is requesting compensation to be paid to the buyer's agent from the seller. And then we would submit the offer in hopes that the seller would come back with terms that we were okay with, right? And that's now part of the negotiations. But what if the seller doesn't pay concessions, right, to the buyer's agent? Well, we have to lean to the buyer to pay this, right? The buyer's responsible to pay. So we made an effort to submit a request to the listing agent and the seller to pay us concessions. So the answer here is, what if the seller doesn't pay us, right? Then what? What happens? What's the next? What do we do? Anyone? Yes. Yes, what do we do? Can it be, is Fernando still here? What's that?
Depends on the loan.
It really depends on the loan. Usually like FHA loans, I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you incorporate it to the loan, that's a conversation you want to have with the lender. Saying, hey, and here's another segue and an opportunity to have a conversation is, when you're consulting with the buyer, right? You're navigating what the down payment, the closing costs, hey, you should also include your compensation as part of that agreement. And when having a conversation with the lender and says, hey, here's a client that is looking to purchase a home, you know, what is the scenario, but also include a 2.5% as my fee. So that way the buyer's expectation of front full transparency, the buyer knows what they're getting themselves. It's just an additional cost, just like down payment, just like closing costs. Okay, concession from a seller's perspective can be three components, right? Concessions can be credit, right? Credit towards the buyer's fees, request of repairs, and also the commission to the buyer to offset the cost that the buyer is responsible to pay. Okay, but it all really depends on what type of loan. That's a conversation you want to have with the lender. Make sense? Question?
So, this is, this is the first time that, I figured out that the loan could pay this agent or compensation. So how does that work? So you choose.
So they can, technically speaking, finance the commission. So if the commission is 20,000, they're gonna add it to the loan. And the buyer is really financing that alone. Yes, I've read it.
Part of the new RPA as well.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk a little bit also on the new changes with the new RPA. Let's give Brandon a round of applause. Yes, yes.
When it is in the RPA.
It already came out.
It is.
It already came out.
So I think what I'm hearing and my 2 cents is you should always be making sure your buyer is aware how you get paid. Like that should just be normal practice, right? And absolutely it should be part of it. With the new RPA, it's now going to be a little bit disclosed differently. So prior to the new change in the purchase agreement, you would have to fill out the SPDB and submit it to the listing agent, or hopefully the listing agent's communicating with you and telling you, right, what it is. But now, because it's in the RPA at the
page 2 now. It's all part of the contract, including what disclosing to the seller in the purchase agreement, whether or not your buyer can or cannot afford to pay you directly. So at least it's now being disclosed in the purchase agreement.
Hey, Nat, can you go to the next slide, please? For the RPA, the sample. One more. There, okay.
So there it is.
So this is the most current purchase agreement, okay? December 2024. What I wanted to illustrate is they added the new additional languages G3. They eliminated the SBPP form, so you don't have to check that. It already is automatically on the purchase agreement. Meaning that now here on this RPA, you can ask for a percentage or a flat fee. Seller credit to buyer is up here on G1. G2, additional seller credit terms does not include the buyer broker compensation. So you gotta fill this section. Otherwise, the seller can say, well, they didn't ask for commission, so I'm assuming that the buyer's gonna pay. But if you're really gonna lean on the seller to pay commission or concessions, then you wanna make sure that you fill in G3. That was added to the new purchase agreement.
Unless if it's written no.
Say again?
I would, it's always a negotiation. That to me, Jack, is just, I don't really care what it says. If you've got a buyer who wants the house, you go to bat. That's how I personally do it. So, and what I would look at, I look at negotiations from a different perspective. I'm gonna ask you guys 2 quick questions. Prior to this, if you didn't have to worry about this, right? And your buyer needed help with closing costs, what would you do? You would still negotiate it in the deal. But there's a couple things that I want you to remember in negotiation. It's just a simple thing and we call it power. Where is the power? Now, if you've got a property that's been on the market for 65 days, would it be easier for you to negotiate with the seller to do things? You got a property that just came on the market and has 16 offers already. Is it going to be easier for you to negotiate? So don't overthink it. Just understand that it's situational. You know, Gary said it earlier. No 2 deals are alike, but the circumstances, right, are always going to be different. But the process is the same. And it should just start with having an understanding. And I don't want to overstep my boundary, but when it comes to the buyer side, if your buyer cannot afford to pay you, you need to be on the same page with them about a particular situation that could arise on a property that they really want where the seller isn't going to pay the fee. You need to have a clear understanding of what that outcome looks like before you go show that property and write offers. That's part of the buyer representation presentation.
So let me ask you this. Let's play that scenario. And let's say that the seller doesn't pay compensation or commission to the.
Isn't offering it up front.
Yeah.
Is this pre-writing the offer?
Yeah.
Pre-writing the offer.
Right.
So the listing agent says, yeah, seller has no clue. I think you just say, great, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And you write the offer. It's gonna become a negotiation. You have to put pressure on both sides to decide how bad they want to buy or sell something.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to do in writing.
Right.
Than it is to try and verbally make it happen, right?
So now let's say we submitted the offer, they come back and.
They say no.
Seller says, nope, we're not gonna pay compensation.
So Simon, what would you like to do?
Well, what options do I have here?
So we can walk away from the property and go look at another property.
Okay, that's one.
We can recounter their counter. We
Absolutely.
could say, we understand and we can increase the price of the offer. Right? There's 3.
Okay.
We can talk to the lender and see if there's a creative way for us to do that. We can talk to the listing agent. How bad do they want it? Do they want to share in some of this to make it happen?
Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, as many houses that Tammy and I have sold, it never mattered what the buyer's agent commission was because we always end up negotiating things anyway.
That's right.
Right? At the end of the day. So.
And just to add to what Brandon's saying, let's say that your buyer representation agreement is 2.5%, but you throw in that 2.5% and the seller says no, you then renegotiate and says, okay, well, let's see if they'll at least compensate us for 1%. And then the buyer would be responsible for paying 1.5%, and it may be something that they're comfortable doing so.
Yeah, so if you're new, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But that, when I brought up how we used to do with closing costs, is the seller says, no, I'm not going to pay your buyer's closing costs, and you wrote an offer for 500. Now you're just rewriting another offer for 510,000, and the seller's going to include that. So There's always a way to negotiate it. So the only challenge you have with increasing a price to offset any of those concessions is appraisal. You just need to know, like anything else, what you're getting into before you get in. Yeah. Right. So.
Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. Yeah, so in essence, this is, again, one of the cool things that the RPA has included. I actually have a copy of the red line purchase agreement. Now, this came out December 16th, so it came out on Monday. So all of the updated forms, there was like 8 different new forms that came out, and a lot of the revisions came in. But here's just an example of some of the changes, which is again, G3. And then there was a specific language on the offering on paragraph 33. They included additional language on there as well to the RPA. There's also some language about escrow. And there's another cool thing on the counter offers. On the counter offers, the buyer counter offer and the seller counter offer. Does everyone know how long a offer is good? Yeah. 3 days, right? 72 hours, right? Well, what if your offer doesn't get considered till after the 3 days? What happens to that offer?
Right now it's changed, they're accepting.
Yeah, it expires, right? It's a void agreement. Well, with the counter offers, they added language on there that stipulates that you can revive an expired offer. Okay, for those situations where, like Brandon was saying, about 16 offers, the listing agent is trying to, figure out, and it's like, it's gonna take me more than 3 days, right? So those are those particulars where the counter offers will be now able to revive an expired offer. That's some of the language added, okay? So the best way and the best practice, ladies and gentlemen, is really read these forms, read them, and then read them again. The more you're involved in reading these forms, the better you're able to now have the conversation with the buyer, have the conversation with the seller as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And don't forget, like Eric's making time to have these conversations and role play this stuff with you guys on Wednesdays. So
That's right.
go lean into Eric and those time frames, because I think that helps with the practice, right, Eric?
Yeah, it does. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone, right? And I know it's sometimes a little uncomfortable to be up here in front of all of your peers and have a dialogue. But if you're not at least practicing here, make all the mistakes here, folks. Because you don't want to make the mistakes out in the field when you're in front of your client with $1 million opportunity. Does that make sense, right? So I hope that kind of shares some light. Any final thoughts regarding the RPA, AD 2992? Yes, sir.
Just to fully clarify, you said something about the buyer broker agreement is now necessary when practical. That's the new.
So the buyer agreements are going to be a must. You still need a dead file. Yeah. Yeah, you're still gonna need a buyer representation agreement if you're gonna represent and submit an offer. But now, the way the law changed with the Department of Real Estate is, remember, you had to get a buyer agreement.
Right.
Now we can have a conversation, you can go show properties, and then once they identify a property, then you can say, okay, I want to submit an offer, great, let's go with the motions of doing the buyer representation, the purchase agreement.
Okay.
Let's get a pre-approval letter and so on and so
So
forth.
good practice is always use it even when you first meet the person. But
I would say, yeah,
now only require.
you just have that extra layer of cushion now, where you're not obligated immediately, if you're talking real estate,
Right.
to have a BRBC. What I'm saying is, don't get out of the habit of still, having them sign
Right.
an agreement, right? Because part of the process, when you go on a listing appointment, right? You want to walk away from that listing appointment with a signed listing agreement, right? Well, vice versa, also when it comes to your buyer agreements.
Yeah.
Okay, why would you have a consultation and spend an hour with them and walk away without a buyer representation agreement? That's all I'm saying. But what the new law says is you don't have to do that. You can have a consultation, show them properties, and then when they're ready to submit an offer, then you can do the BRBC. That's what they're saying.
That's good, because I thought a lot of agents were losing buyers because they're trying to get them to sign something very
And that's very possible. The other thing, the two component, and then I'll answer your question now, Brendan. Is the dual agency, right? Guess what? The state of California still allows us to do dual agency, okay? Now, dual agency is when you represent both buyer and the seller, right? If you're the listing agent and you get a unrepresented buyer, is that considered or creates dual agency? Why does that create? Remember, listen to my question. If I'm the listing agent and I receive an offer from an unrepresented buyer, does that create dual agency?
No.
The answer is no. And the reason is because you don't have an agreement with that buyer. The only way you create a dual agency agreement is if you have a buyer agreement in place with the buyer, and then the offer gets submitted, and then offer gets accepted, and you're in escrow, now it becomes a dual agency agreement, okay? Or two agents in the same company, that creates also a dual agency, right?
So when it comes to the VRPC, Simon, are we, so we've already had a couple, like escrow officers ask for a copy of a VRPC, so is that really gonna be required after January 1 if it's all in the RPA now?
It is, it'll be required.
No, but I mean, does the other side, if they're asking for proof, if you have a VRPC, you still have to provide them proof?
You mean the listing agent?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they ask for it, yeah, you still have to show proof of it, yeah. That's part of the process, unfortunately. That may change.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing and seeing is that, yeah, if it's requested, then yes, you can provide a PRBC. Yeah.
It's for the brokerage or the same agent? It should be two different agents, or same agent can present the buyer and the seller?
To create a dual agency?
Brokerage can present, same broker can present to the seller and the
Yeah,
buyer,
so-
and also the agent?
Yeah.
Or they should be two different agents?
So dual agency can be one agent representing both buyer and seller, and dual agency can also be two agents representing each party, but the same brokerage. They're both with the same brokerage.
person.
So if it's a PB agent submitting an offer, that doesn't create a dual agency. But if you have a deal with Eric or Brandon or any of you in this office, then that creates a dual agency once we have an
In the
acceptance.
meantime, I can present both of them, seller and the buyer.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Full transparency. That's why you created the possible representation agreement, right? Of more than one buyer and seller, right? That's just telling the buyer and the seller, hey, there might be an opportunity that as a listing agent representing you, I might be able to pick up a buyer and may represent. Now, I'm not gonna go too far left on this, but if the listing agent or the seller says, I don't want you to be part of a dual agency, I want you to have my best interest and my best interest only, then you have to kind of, honor those wishes and not represent a buyer. But then you delegate it to someone else that is willing, kind of like arm's length transaction. Yes,
Oh, so the VRBC is an expiration still 3 months,
yes,
and
yes.
so I feel like a really short time. So to like take someone around to look at homes and really find the right home, but it's gonna say 3 months.
Yeah, it's 3 months if you're working with an individual. Now, if it's a corporation, LLC, or an entity, that could go longer than 3 months. Usually like your investors and all that. But remember, even at 3 months, you want to do a modification of the representation agreement to extend it for another 2 or 3 months. Okay, so that's how it works. Because I've seen PRBCs that are expired and they realize, oh my God, I thought I had it for 3 months, but it already expires. We'll just do a modification to extend the PRBC to another 2 or 3 months. Okay. All right, cool. Anything else? All right, let's continue. Next slide, please. All right, so that concludes our team meeting, and now we're going into our ugly Christmas contest. So everyone that has an ugly sweater, come up here, please. Any, who else? We lost everyone. Oh, there.
I win.
Yeah.
Two.
Come on, who else has an ugly sweater? It's 2 of you. Wow, okay. All right, so, let's, we don't really have that. So which one do you guys like the best? Is it, option 1 or option 2? Right? We both win, right? Yeah, let's go ahead and honor both and let's. Yeah. That was super simple. There you go. And there you go. Awesome. All right, thank you, ladies. Thank you for participating. You guys are awesome. I forgot it. I had a Santa Claus hunt and totally forgot about it this morning. I realized, did I go back? But in leadership, we cannot, we can't compete. It was all about. All right, upcoming events. Quick reminder, this Friday, December 20th, I'm going to dive deep into how to create a comparable market analysis utilizing the MLS, okay? It's vital and crucial. If you really want to hone in and how to do effective comparable market analysis, we have the class this Friday, 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning, okay? Yes, the training will be recorded, but it's always best to be in person so we can have that engagement. But also is the little shortcuts and ideas that, you know, will help you have an effective CMA. So that way, when you're talking to your clients, you'll be ready and prepared to really explain why the value you think or the opinion makes sense. And this is where we should start as the price point, right? We'll go hands-on. If you want to bring your laptop too, so you can dive into the MLS, I can show you how to navigate shortcuts and how to do an effective comparable market analysis. Okay, this slide. Next slide. All right, also tomorrow, December 19th at 3 p.m. here at the lounge, we're going to be having our ornament exchange. So please make sure to join us. It's a white elephant ornament exchange. Cookies and Christmas beverage will be here. If you're going to participate, please RSVP with Natalie so that way we have at least a head count and who's going to be participating tomorrow at 3 p.m. Next slide. Okay, and that concludes our team meeting. For the people that are part of the mentorship, you have a couple